Hello, Tashdalai. I hope you're doing well. And we are still continuing our studies to understand more about the 6 paramitas, the trainings in the engaged bodhicitta. As being the practitioners of the Maya and the vehicle, it is very, very important that we know what is bodhicitta, what are the practices of bodhicitta. And therefore, that is the main reason why we are trying to focus more on these different practices, which are known as the 6 paramitas. And if one has developed loving kindness and compassion towards all sentient beings, with wisdom, with knowing the reason why you are doing this and why it is important to generate bodhicitta for the benefit of others, we should always have this understanding, the full awareness of the purpose why we are doing this and what are the beneficial effects of this when one do really establish a genuine mind that is concerned for others' well-being, that is wanting to see other sentient beings being free from suffering of samsara and the cause of suffering, and having a genuine wish to see all sentient beings in the state of happiness and have the cause of happiness. So this is why it is important for us to recall the really true purpose of having this kind of motivation. And as being the practitioners of Maya and vehicle, it is always important and it is always meaningful that we should always understand the reason why we are practicing bodhicitta. And because of that reason, we now trying our best to understand these 6 different types of paramitas. We are not enough just by practicing the aspiration bodhicitta, just by having a good wish for the benefit of others, just by having a good wish to see all sentient beings being free from suffering of samsara. That's just aspiration part, and that will not bring any fruition. And because of that reason, Buddha did mention the 2nd type of bodhicitta, which is known as the engaged bodhicitta, which we really need to implement those methods in the path, those different types of trainings that can be very beneficial and helpful in bringing our developing our inner peace, developing our internal strength to benefit sentient beings. These are the tools which makes us durable, which will make us eligible to do something good for others. And while we are trying to do something good for others, while we are trying to bring lots of benefit for others' well-being, we as a doer, from our point of view, we as a doer, we also need to be free from this kind of negative afflictions and emotions. If you are not free from negative afflictions and emotions, or if you do not practice these 6 trainings, then you will not be able to bring others towards happiness. So that is why it is very important that we should first understand this. Then we should focus on the meaning of these trainings, and then finally the most important thing is we need to apply those trainings into our day-to-day life, so that we'll be able to transform ourselves from negative, non-virtuous towards virtuous and positiveness. That is what we should do and we should be doing. Okay, so to continue where we stopped from last session, we are going to understand more about these paramitas. So before we do so, we should recite refuge prayers and try to generate bodhicitta for the benefit of all sentient beings. Sangye Jodan Zoge Jonam La Jangjo Bando Dane Gyab Sonje Dage Jinso Gebe Sonam Ge Dola Benjer Sangye Drubaresho Sangye Jodan Zoge Jonam La Jangjo Bando Dane Gyab Sonje Dage Jinso Gebe Sonam Ge Dola Benjer Sangye Drubaresho Sangye Jodan Zoge Jonam La Jangjo Bando Dane Gyab Sonje Dage Jinso Gebe Sonam Ge Dola benchir sangye do barai sho semje damje dewa dan dewe gyo dan de barai gyurje donga dan donga ge gyo dan dawa gyurje donga bebe dewa dan ba dan me dawa gyurje ngere ja dan ngi dan da Tanyam jembo la ne barai gyuro je semje damje dewa dan dewe gyo dan de ba gyurje donga dan donga ge gyo dan dawa gyurje donga bebe dewa dan ba dan me dawa gyurje ngere ja dan ngi dan da Tanyam jembo la ne barai gyuro je Semjen damjen dewa dan dewe gyo dan den barai gyurje donga dan donga ge gyo dan dawa gyurje donga bebe dewa dan ba dan me dawa gyurje ngire ja dan ngi dan da Tanyam jembo la ne barai gyuro je Palden zawe lama rinpoche dagi juro be men den shola Kadin jembe go ne je son de go son to ge ngon do da do Okay, so we try to generate bodhicitta. We try to understand that this bodhicitta is very important in order to bring happiness for oneself and others, in order to free oneself and others from the existence of suffering of samsara, of the 6 realms. So we always should encourage ourselves to generate bodhicitta every now and then. Every time when you have time, when you have loving kindness and compassion, generating bodhicitta for the benefit of others, you should not hesitate of doing so. And always, whenever you are trying to practice, or it's just simply practicing the recitations of 6 syllables, the Om Mani Padme Hum, every time before we do so, we need to generate bodhicitta. Whatever we are doing, may this be the cause for the benefit of others. May this be the cause of the happiness of others. So if you have this kind of motivation, this kind of attitude, then it will be always helpful. It will plant a good seed within yourself. Therefore, you are always ready whenever there is a necessity, whenever there is some situation where people need our help. We will be, voluntarily will be extending our help towards other beings. This all happens because of the kind of readiness that we have been preparing for so many years in our daily practices. We need to prepare ourselves. We need to understand the beneficial effects of bodhicitta. We need to understand the purpose of bodhicitta. We need to understand all these trainings of bodhicitta. So when you have this kind of knowledge, then we prepare ourselves. And then in the real field, when we see people suffering, when we see people having trouble, who need our help, then we can really help them, without any thinking. We just voluntarily will go forward and help them. So this is how it happens, because of our preparedness. So every time when you're sitting in your room doing practice, meditation practice, listening to Dharma, reading the Dharma books, or simply remembering or recalling the kindness of Guru, you should always generate bodhicitta. And this is very, very important, very helpful as well. And it will also bring you a kind of joy, inner joy, inner peace, which is very important. So GAMPOPA here is talking about the trainings in bodhicitta, especially the engaged bodhicitta, different trainings of engaged bodhicitta, and which are known as the 6 paramitas, very popular teaching of the Mahayana vehicle. And yes, we do understand about the number of these 6 paramitas. We may have remember them in our heart, in our mind. We'll be able to repeat them in numbers. We'll be able to say what are the 6 paramitas and their definitions maybe, and then their classifications maybe. But the question is, are we really implementing these 6 paramitas in our day-to-day life? Are we really being generous towards others? Are we really focusing our internal value, our internal kind of the moral ethics? Or are we really forbearing difficult situations? Are we really practicing patience when we encounter some unpleasurable incidents, unfavorable circumstances? Do we really practice? Are we really practicing patience at that time? Are we really practicing patience with knowledge, with wisdom, or are we just, forbearing 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and at last you are blasting out? So this is very, very important to focusing ourselves whether we're really practicing these teachings or not. If you are doing so, wonderful. This will really bring benefits to yourself and others. If you are not practicing them, then that's just a repetition. And repetition can be done by anyone, anybody. So there's not something any kind of special in your practice if you're just repeating them without implementing them into our day-to-day life. You'll be very well known in giving teachings or paramitas, but when someone says something bad to you, then if your reaction is anger, then you have failed the paramita practice, one of the paramita practice of giving patience. So therefore it is always very, very important. Every now and then, even though it is a small thing, we need to focus, try our level best whether we'll be able to implement these trainings in our day-to-day life or not. If you focus, give time, give kind of time to think about it, give time to contemplate these practices, the meaning of these practices, and try to implement them, then this will be the one which will be bringing fruition. Otherwise, it's just a repetition. It's just empty words. So therefore, if you don't see any changes in your life by being Buddhist for so many years, that is because you are not implementing those teachings. You're just listening them and having fun, and having some kind of short-time benefits of, I went to Dharma center, I had a very good teaching today, it was wonderful, I feel so much joy, that's there. But then that will not last long within yourself unless you really implement them, these teachings, into your day-to-day life. Then it will have beneficial effects for sure. So therefore, we should always remember this. We should not cheat ourselves. We should be honest to ourselves. Even the practice of the Dharma, we should be honest whether we are really practicing the Dharma into our day-to-day life or not. It's just not sweet words. It's just not kind of blessing. It is the daily need of our life. These instructions will bring lots of changes in our life to dealing with our negative afflictions and emotions, tackling our negative afflictions and emotions, associating with other beings, encountering with different difficult situations. If you really implement these beautiful teachings, you'll see a difference for sure. And therefore, we should always encourage ourselves, not only listening the teachings of the Dharma, but also contemplate the meaning and apply them into our daily basis. Okay, so having said that, we try to continue where we have stopped from last session. So we are now trying to understand the third type of paramita, the perfections of patience. And the perfections of patience here is trying to have patience with knowledge, with wisdom, not kind of stupid patience, just setting up, piling up all the angers and then expressing them at last with the full kind of strength. So that's not helpful at all. So what we are trying to understand here, the patience, is by knowing the background of the situation, with wisdom, with having kind of reason why we should not get angry, or why we should forbear or practice patience, with all these good reasons that has mentioned by GAMPOPA here. So the Shanti Paramita, or the perfection of patience, there are different types of practice of patience, and in the classifications of practice of patience, GAMPOPA did mentions of the 3 different types of patience. The first is known as the patience of feeling ease towards someone's harmful. mind at ease, not doing anything, not retaliating, not acting in the same manner. If someone shouts at you, you do not shout them back. Mind at ease. Stop there and just look the situation. Use your wisdom at that very situation, not taken away by the anger of someone else, not losing your mind. If you lose your mind, when someone's because someone's angry at you, if you lose your mind, then you are out of patience. You will react in the same way. And then if someone shout at you with their anger, and if you shout them back with your anger, and what's the reason? What's the difference between you and them? The fault is both, isn't it? Falls on both. You can't say he is wrong and I'm right, because you are acting in the same manner, same way, same yelling, same shouting, same anger. So that's why GAMPOPA also said that both have the equal faults, and that's very true, I think. So if someone's angry at you and you do not react in the same manner, then you can say, oh, that's his fault, and I did not retaliate. I'm safe in the sense of mundane level. But then that's not the case here. If you are angry, if someone's angry at you, shout at you, and you are angry, you do the same reaction, then there's no difference between the two. So when someone is angry at you, when someone shows different behavior, unfavorable behavior to you, at that time, what we need to do is, we need to, practice patience of feeling ease at someone's harmful, or mind at ease, or not retaliating, not saying anything. So while not saying anything, what you need to do is, it's not just simply kind of not saying anything, but with kind of meditation within your mind. At the very moment when you hear someone shouting at you with their full anger, and then you don't retaliate, or you don't react in the same manner, but at the same time what you do is, you need to do some kind of investigation here. And there, what GAMPOPA did mention was different types of 9 different types of things that you can do meditation or investigation. And the first one GAMPOPA did mention was that when someone's very angry at you, instead of shouting them back, you should generate kind of compassion towards that individual, because you see that they are overpowered by negative afflictions and emotions. They have no control over their mind. So this is one kind of seeing the situation from the positive angle, by seeing that they don't have freedom. They have no freedom from negative afflictions and emotions. So therefore they are just kind of presenting that negative afflictions and emotions with their attitude, with their physical appearances. So therefore this is one of the reasons how we can practice patience, well, having mind at ease, well, not reacting in the same manner, but at the same time with awareness of thinking that, oh, he is pity, he or she has no freedom from their negative afflictions and emotions, so I should forbear this. I should have more patience. I should have more kind of compassion towards this individual. Likewise, you also think that if something goes bad, that not only is their fault, it may be also your fault, because you see, we are interdependent. So things falls apart because of one or another way. We need to depend on each other. If all are in the stable, then it's fine. But if something's unstable, there's the responsibility from both sides. So likewise here he says, because of having this body, having this skandhas itself is already the one of the responsibilities, that someone has an object to blame, to shout, to get angry too, because you have this skandhas. You have taken birth in these 6 realms because of your karmic, because previous karma. So that's another reason why. So there are many different reasons that we can think about and be mindful. So when you are investigating this, when you are doing meditating on these different points, then it slowly heals you. It will give you an opportunity to develop more compassion within yourself. Then there's no chances of getting angry towards that individual. So this is a wonderful teaching actually. And today we are going to talk about the second type of patience, that is the patience of accepting suffering. So what does this mean? Patience of accepting suffering means that, when we do something good for others, for example, when we train in these 6 different paramitas, when we do something charity work for others, it is not always easy, isn't it? First thing, it is not easy because we are in the mundane level. We all are ordinary beings. Even though we practice paramitas, even though we generate bodhicitta, we are still ordinary beings. So we have these negative afflictions, emotions. We are controlled by negative afflictions and emotions, especially the ignorant, not knowing the true nature of phenomena, not knowing the emptiness nature of phenomena yet. So therefore, it is always, uncertain. Anything can happen anytime. We are now happy, but we can't be happy in the next second. There's very, uncertainties, impermanence nature. That's why it is not easy. And second is, we should forbear lots of hardships in doing anything good for oneself and others. Even, for example, when you do the mantra practice, especially the frustration, the 100,000 frustration, it is not easy at all, isn't it? So it demands lots of your energy, time, patience. So this kind of thing, it's not easy. Likewise, helping others, generating bodhicitta, doing charity works, doing dharma activities in dharma center, as well as in the other field of, helping other beings, helping hands. There's always, some kind of misunderstanding taking place because of not having, what you call, the enough power to read others' mind, clairvoyance, so to speak. So we not having clairvoyance, so we always have kind of misunderstanding for others. Even in the Dharma Center, there are lots of different point of views that one agrees and other do not. All these things. Even though if you are in the monasteries or in the Dharma centers, still we are not free from negative afflictions and emotions. Well, we are trying to. That's why we are in the monasteries, trying to avoid, these disciplines. But yet we are not free from these negative afflictions and emotions yet. So there's always a difficult challenges. So therefore, here the second type of patience is, having patience of accepting these sufferings, these difficulties. So, even though it is hard to do 100,000 prostrations, but by knowing the reason why it is important, this is also one way, one method of accumulating merit and purification's part. So therefore you have joy, joyful in your mind. Even though it is hard, you are sweating, you are, breathing faster than what you used to breathe, and demanding lots of your time and energy and body age and leg age, whatever, all this kind of, suffering. But yet you are happy because you see there's a beneficial effects. You see this is important. This is the one of the means, method of purifications and accumulation of good merits. Likewise, becoming a monk, leaving all your relatives behind, your house, parents, relatives behind, and staying in the monastery is not easy also, But at the same time, you are happy, you are accepting this kind of uncomfortableness or suffering from departing from your family, suffering departing from your near ones, and missing all these beautiful parties and picnics and all sorts of mundane things by going into retreat or being in monasteries. But still you are very happy, you are joyful, accepting this, difficulties, because you see there's a better, result than the mundane one. You see, if you, really go into retreat or you become monastics, go into monastics, then you have more possibilities to practice the Dharma. then you have more, kind of opportunity to listen to Dharma, practice the Dharma, meditate Dharma, and less worry about the worldly things. So with this kind of understanding, you're accepting this suffering for the better future, for the better beneficial effects. So this kind of thing. And likewise, practicing charity works, benefiting others by giving, your services to others' well-being. It's not easy, but yet you're happy. Like those, in these circumstances, those front-line workers, nurses, doctors, all these different type of people who are helping, trying to save others' life. It's not easy, but since they have this, kind of joyfulness, since they know it is a good thing to do, it is a very wonderful thing to save someone's life. So they know the reason why they are doing it. So therefore, it becomes easier for them to accept this kind of suffering. So likewise here, the second type of patience is, patience of accepting suffering. So I'll read this out. With a mind of joy and without sadness for your suffering, voluntarily accept the suffering of practice, leading towards unsurpassable enlightenment. Whatever difficulties are there in the path of practice, you are voluntarily accepting them, because you know that this will lead you to the more beneficial effects, towards the more, lasting happiness, that is unsurpassable enlightenment. So therefore, you're okay. You're okay. You accept of shortcomings, temporary shortcomings, temporary missing out parties, temporary missing out shoppings and all, but you are, aware of the idea that what you are really doing will bring you a lasting happiness for oneself and others. Therefore, you are accepting these sufferings. So here, GAMPOPA gives some example of monastic life, the difficulties in the monastic life. So for monk and nun, you must undergo the suffering of making efforts to find dharma robes. So in the past, in India, monks and nuns, they do need to, go for alms and kind of finding their food, clothing. So these are also kind of suffering. But yet, they accept this because they see this is the main purpose. What is the main purpose of doing this? They can see the lasting happiness that is coming there later on. And likewise, making offering to Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, attending teachers, honoring three jewels, spiritual masters. So these are also difficult job, but then you accept this. Then we have listening the teachings, sometimes longer pujas, 12 hours of puja a day, so which are not very kind of comfortable, but yet we accept this because we see it has a greater beneficial effects. Likewise, giving Dharma teachings, reciting prayers, meditating, making efforts in your meditation practice late night and early in the morning, waking up early in the morning, going bed late night by practicing meditation and listening, reading Dharma books and so on and so forth. So these are not easy tasks, but yet you accept them, you see the beneficial effects of this. Likewise, without getting sad, tired or exhausted, cold, hungry, thirsty, disturbed and so forth, you voluntarily accept the suffering of the effort to benefit sentient beings. So these are the different types of example here that GAMPOPA did mention about accepting, sufferings, having patience in the this kind of tasks, because you see the beneficial effects of this. So by practicing this kind of patience, you gain victory in the battle of samsara. So you are, trying to fight with your negative afflictions and emotions, by accepting this suffering patiently, trying to tackle out your, anger, your attachment, all these things. You are really trying to gain victory from samsaric life, or the cause of suffering, by annihilating or completely destroying the enemy of afflicting emotions. you are a real warrior. So if you are able to gain victory over negative afflictions and emotions, then you are a real warrior. Otherwise, just hitting others, killing someone, other individual, then you are not a warrior at all. Because from the Dharma point of view, if you kill someone, that is considered as very worst thing to do, because that individual is actually a nature of death already. When he or she takes birth in this samsara, he or she is already preparing the emptiness, this impermanence nature. So he or she will die sooner or later. That's the guarantee. Once you were born, will die one day. So what is the use of killing that individual who is the nature of death, who has the nature of death already? So this is not considered as a warrior. So if you're thinking of destroying your enemies and gaining victory over your enemies by killing them, destroying them, then you are not a warrior at all. So what you really, from the Dhamma point of view, if you really want to be a warrior, then you need to fight with your negative afflictions and emotions. You need to fight with your anger, jealousy, hatred, aversion, and so on and so forth. So if you overcome all these different negative afflictions and emotions, then you're liberated, then you're free, then you're a great warrior. Okay. So this is what it means by here. So this is the second type of patience, practicing patience. And the third type of practicing patience is the patience in understanding the nature of phenomena. So this is, when you hear about the Dharma teaching about impermanence or suffering of samsara, these are very hard to, digest, isn't it? Some people, when you talk about suffering of samsara, they don't want to listen. They just want to go away. They say, oh, that's enough. They really don't want to, hear this. So, but that's the fact. What to do? And likewise, the teachings of impermanence, suffering, suffering of change, all pervading sufferings. People don't really want to hear this. But what to do? That's the fact. We have to face sooner or later. So we don't have, patience, hearing the suffering of samsara, hearing the impermanence nature of samsara, and more than that, emptiness. When you hear the Dharma teaching about emptiness, people get really terrified. Some are very, saddened. But what to do? That's the fact of the reality. That's the reality of the fact and the phenomena. So having patience in the understanding of the nature of phenomena is having, to accepting this nature of change, having, acceptance in the nature of change, understanding the nature of the change, understanding the nature of suffering of the six realms, and understanding the emptiness nature of phenomena. So this also is the one kind of patience. So that's why this is the third type of patience here. Aspire to and patiently practice the realizations of inherent emptiness of the two types of self and ultimate nature. So we need to understand these teachings and accept them, and trying to focus this reality. So if you're able to really understand the meaning of impermanence, nature of suffering, nature of emptiness, then you will have less disappointments when you really face them. When you really encounter your very close friend pass away, uncertain death, then when you have this knowledge of impermanence, then you are not so much disappointed. Otherwise, on the other hand, if you do not have any kind of knowledge of impermanence nature, of suffering nature, then you kind of fix with the existence. Then you think that, how come? Why him? Or why he left? You really can't accept this reality. Therefore, you are so much saddened. and you have a big disappointment in yourself, which is not healthy at all. So this is the reason why we need to have this practice of patience in the understanding of the true nature of phenomena. So this is the third type of practice of patience. So these are the three different types of classifications of perfections of patience. Okay. So the next presentation is how to increase this practice of patience. So in the same manner, like what was mentioned earlier in the first and second paramita, likewise here, patience will increase through primordial wisdom, discriminating awareness, and dedication. So what does this mean? This means that patience will increase through primordial wisdom, is to knowing the three spheres, who is practicing patience, to whom you are practicing patience, doer, and the act, and the object. So if you see all these three as the emptiness nature, non-existent nature, that is what it means by how we can increase our practice of patience, by having this knowledge of emptiness nature of three spheres. Likewise, you can increase your practice of patience by having discriminating awareness. What does this mean? This means that having, when you practice patience, at first we need to have bodhicitta. That's one thing. And in meanwhile, while you're practicing patience, you kind of don't have any kind of fixation. And then at the end, you don't have any kind of hope or reward, not any kind of considerations of reward and result, or not any kind of ego clinging there. And then finally, you can increase this practice of patience by dedication. The example is just a drop of water pouring into ocean. Then this will last as long as the ocean lasts. So whatever your good virtues that you have accomplished, if you dedicate them for the benefit of others, then that will remain there as long as sentient beings remain there. So this is how you can expand or increase your practice of patience. Then the next presentation, the sixth one, is perfection. How you can perfect your practice of patience. This can be done through the perfections of patience if your practice of patience is supported by emptiness and compassion. If you practice patience with knowledge of non-existent nature or emptiness nature of three spheres, then you are safe from falling down in samsara. And then if your practice of patience is supported by compassion, then you are safe from falling into lower vehicle. So in other words, in these two, wisdom and method. Wisdom is to understand the true nature of phenomena, and method is to, and while we understand this true nature of phenomena, then you gain compassion towards those people who do not have this knowledge, who are still roaming and wandering around with ignorance, overpowered by ignorance, not knowing the true nature of phenomena, and then acting that everything is so solid and existent, and they are so attached to them, and having that kind of attachment to those, they do anything to win this, fulfill their wishes, to win that particular object. And if someone obstructs that, then they will be able to generate aversions, then they have all these negative afflictions and emotions taking place, which will bring them into actions of non-virtuous act, which will create bad karma. So therefore, these are all those individuals. We need to generate compassion, and we need to educate them. We need to enlighten them of the reality, the truth of reality. We should teach them. You should not hold to things so much, because they are not non-existent nature. They are emptiness nature, or they are a nature of change. All these kind of things that we can share them, sharing the Dharma, enlightening them, clearing their ignorance. So these are what we should be doing. So well, if you are able to do this, then this is how you kind of perfect your practice of patience, with accepting, even though it is hard to enlighten one being, because they have their own point of view. They are holding their point of view so strongly, so it's not simple. But yet, if you do not hesitate and go forward to enlighten them, try to clarify their ignorance and bring them into the true nature of phenomena, link them with the nature of true nature of phenomena, then that is something how we can perfect our patience. Finally, the 7th point, the presentation, is the result. So what is the result of practicing patience? So it is said here, one should understand the result of practice of the patience in 2 ways: in ultimate level and in the relative or conventional state. In ultimate state, one attains Buddhahood, that's for sure, because when you have practiced patience, you have never give an opportunity to aversion to take place. When there's no aversion taking place, you are not harming others. So these are how we can slowly progress our practice in the Dharma. So slowly, one day, ultimately, it will be your support bringing the fruition, the complete enlightenment. So the Bodhisattva Bhumi says here, if he or she depends on this vast and limited patience to produce the results of enlightenment, a Bodhisattva will attain unsurpassable, perfect and complete enlightenment. The next one is, in the relative or conventional level, one will have good complexion if you practice patience. So all of you who want to have a attractive look, good complexion, you should practice patience. You should not get aversions, you should not get angry at all. So this is what you said here. See? So if you want to have a good complexion in your next life or in the future, then you should practice patience. Or if you want to be famous, have long life, or if you want to wish to attain the state of universal chakra monarch, you should practice patience. These are the beneficial effects or the results of the conventional level. So this will take place even if one will not desire them, not considerations of one's benefit, but it is automatic natural effects or the natural result of by practicing patience. Okay, so this is what it means by here. Engaging in the contact of Bodhisattva says, well, in the cyclic existence, patience causes beauty and so forth, health, renown. Because of this, I shall live for a very long time and win the extensive pleasures of the universal chakra kings. So these are the beneficial results or beneficial effects of the practicing patience in the conventional level. This is the 14th chapter dealing with the perfections of patience from the jewel Ornament of Liberation, the wish-fulfilling gem of noble teachings. So this ends the chapter 14 here. That's the 3rd type of paramita, which is the Shanti or the perfections of patience. And since we have some time, we should go to the next chapter, the chapter 15, the perfections of perseverance or the diligence. So, among the 6 paramitas, we have completed the 3 paramitas, Dana paramita, Shila paramita, Shanti paramita. Now, what we are trying to understand is the 4th paramita, that is the perfections of perseverance or Virya paramita. So, this is also a very, very important part here. In any way, in any level, whether it is to do with Dharma practice or whether it is to do with your mundane, activities, if you do not have diligence or if you do not put effort, then you will not go anywhere. You are stuck there. You can't see the beneficial effects of it. You can't find your goal. you can't reach your goal if you do not put effort, if you are not being diligent, if you do not have perseverance. So this is very logical. This is not only Dharma, but it's very logical. So here again, in order to bring yourself and sentient beings into the ultimate level of an attainment of enlightenment, then you should have perseverance in your implementations of the path. If you do practice well today, and if you do not continue that, then you will just stop there. You will not see the fruition. So therefore, this practice of the perseverance is very, very important. Because we know there's a saying, persevere. You will win, not immediately, but definitely. So if you keep going, carrying on without losing hope, even though if you can't see the result now, but if you keep going, without without losing your hope, without backing up, then you'll definitely reach your destination one day. If not immediately, but definitely you'll be able to see the results. So therefore, you should be persevere. You should practice perseverance. So the GAMPOPA presents this in the same manner, the 7 points here again, reflecting on the faults and virtues, fault of not practicing patience, the perseverance, and virtues of being diligence or perseverance. Then the second topic is definitions of perseverance. Third one is the classifications of perseverance. Fourth one is the characteristic of each of these classifications. Then fifth point is how to increase this practice of perseverance. And the sixth is how to perfect this practice of perseverance. And finally, what is the result of practicing perseverance. These 7 comprises the perfections of perseverance. So the first one, reflecting on the faults and virtues. Faults of not being effortful, diligence. So the opposite of effort or diligence is laziness, isn't it? It is the laziness that is obstructing our path from reaching to our goal. This laziness is always a problem for us. Because of laziness, we can't succeed. You can't fulfill our wish, aim. We can't succeed in our path. So if you are lazy, then what is the disadvantage of this? So if you are not lazy, if you are effortful, if you are diligent, if you have perseverance, then what is the virtue of that? Okay. Even though you may have practiced the generosity and other paramitas, it is called laziness if you do not have perseverance. It is the laziness that is obstructing us, that is delaying our process of the path to liberation. So when you're lazy, you cannot accomplish virtue, you cannot accomplish anything in your life because of laziness. You cannot benefit others, you cannot benefit yourself, you cannot complete your education, you cannot complete your even simple as your homework. You cannot, and finally you cannot attain enlightenment if you have no perseverance. If you are being lazy all the time, sleeping, wandering around, not doing anything, delaying yourself. Sometimes it happens, especially in the winter time here in Nepal. You want to wake up very early in the morning. You set your alarm at 5 a.m. and alarm rings, and you say, "Oh, okay, I can sleep more. It's too cold." You instead of waking up, you go inside a blanket more deeper. So this is what happens, delaying yourself. Okay, I'll sleep a little bit more, and this way, what happens is later on, when you wake up, it's already 7 o'clock. Then you are missing lots of things already. Your morning prayers, your morning tasks, offerings, prostrations, meditations. So this all happens. So anything related with this, even in the mundane level, if you are being lazy, you can't accomplish your tasks. So the Sakaramati Requested Sutra says, the lazy person has no generosity, no and so forth up to wisdom. So if you're lazy, you can't practice all the 5 paramitas. The lazy persons cannot benefit others. The lazy person is far from enlightenment. On the other hand, if you have perseverance, all your virtual qualities will increase, because you are, implementing, because you are not stopping there, because you keep moving, keep going. So if you're moving, going, you definitely reach somewhere else, isn't it? For example, if you go trekking or hiking, if you just keep moving, one step after another, even though it is hard, but if you just keep going, then definitely after a few hours you will reach your destination. But if you do not walk, if you just remain there idly, then you'll never reach your destination. So as simple as it is to understand why we need to be diligent, why we need to keep going, encouraging ourselves to move forward. So this is very important. So this is actually not hard to understand. Obviously, definitely we need to be diligent in our practice. We have been doing so while we are in the kindergarten, in the high school. We have always followed the schedule, the timetable, the routine, and because of that we're able to succeed. If you have not followed that routine at that time and slept all the time, then you have never accomplished even a high school degree. So therefore these are not hard to understand. But KHENPO did mention here, it is very, very important to have this paramita. Otherwise you cannot accomplish 5 other paramitas. You cannot practice patience, generosity. You cannot practice moral ethics. You cannot practice of patience. You cannot practice samadhi. And if you have not practiced samadhi, then there is no way you will be able to realize vipassana or wisdom. Therefore, it is very, very important that we need to have this paramita, the perfections of perseverance. Perseverance will not obscure all the virtuous qualities. One will achieve the treasury of limitless primordial wisdoms of the virtuous one. So that is why we need to practice perseverance. When one has perseverance, one can cross the mountain of the view of the transitory aggregates. So if you are diligent enough in the practice of the Dharma, then you will definitely be able to win the battle, battle of samsaric, your battle with the negative afflictions and emotions, you fight with negative afflictions, emotions. If you have perseverance, you will succeed. Then you will gain victory over your negative afflictions and emotions. This all happens because of your perseverance. Otherwise, if you have not followed up, if you have not kept going, if you have lost your hope and if you just remain lazy and idle and not doing anything, then your Dharma practice will not bring you anywhere. Likewise, for example, for your practice of 100,000 prostrations, if you have not put effort, then you remain where you have stopped. 100 times only, or 200, 500, 1000, that's it. Then you didn't go further because of your laziness. But if you have perseverance, keep doing, even though it is not so much, but like 100 prostrations a day, if you continue this, after a few years you'll be able to complete your target, that is 100,000 prostrations. So this is what it means by being perseverance, being joyful in the practice of the Dharma, or in any task that you are doing. Ornament of Mahayana Sutra also says that perseverance will allow one to achieve supreme enlightenment. And the Purna Requested Sutra also says, for one who practices perseverance persistently, enlightenment is not difficult. Nothing is difficult if you practice perseverance persistently. Not at one time, but little bit every time. Keep going, keep moving. Remember the story of tortoise and rabbit. the race of tortoise and rabbit. You should be like tortoise, not like rabbit. If you keep going one step by one step, then you will definitely reach your destination. But if today you move 100 yards and tomorrow you stayed idle whole day and not doing anything, then that will bring you, laziness. Laziness will overtake. Okay, the next is the definition. So what is perseverance then? What does really perseverance means from the dharmic point of view? Here, the definitions of perseverance is a feeling joy in virtue, feeling joy in serving others, feeling joy in practicing the Dharma, feeling joy in whatever you do that is not harmful for others, that is, pleasant for others. So that is known as, the real meaning of perseverance. Perseverance not necessarily means, only hard work. It is hard work with joyfulness. If you have no joyfulness, interest, then that hard work is kind of burden for you. And that's not perseverance, that's not diligence from the dharmic point of view. Remember, see here what it says, feeling joy in the virtues. The collections of Abhidharma says, what does perseverance means? It is the antidote for laziness. Obviously, it is having total joy in virtue, total joy in positiveness, total joy in helping others, total joy in harmony. The commentary on the Ornament of Mahayana Sutra says, having perfect joy in virtue, that is the essence of perseverance. So we should remember this. So, sometimes we think, oh, you are working, doing frustrations for whole day, but without any joy in it. But you think this is perseverance. But here it says, no, it is not only the hard work, it is hard work with joyfulness. That is what it means by perseverance. Okay, so we should also remember this, very important. So when you are joyful, then remember, you can accept the suffering. Patience, accepting the suffering. If you are not joyful with what you are doing, then you can't accept this suffering. Then it will become burden. Then you don't want to continue. Then you want to give up. This all happened because of not having joyfulness, or not knowing the reason why you are doing it, and not knowing the beneficial effect of what you are doing. Therefore, you do not have joyfulness in the practice of the Dharma. Therefore, you are not continuing. Therefore, you want to take a break, or maybe a very long break, maybe. Okay, so we should always do little thing every day and with joyfulness, and that's what is meant by perseverance here, according to Dhamma. So perseverance is the antidote to the laziness, which is detrimental to the enlightenment. So we need to understand what are laziness then. What is laziness? Is there any different types of laziness? So here GAMPOPA says, yes, there are 3 different types of laziness, and you need to overcome all these 3 different types of laziness in order to become practice perseverance. So in order to practice perseverance, we need to understand the opposite of perseverance. So because of that reason, that understanding, will be able to abandon that laziness and practice perseverance. The first is the laziness of listlessness, and second is the laziness of disregard, and the third one is the gross laziness. And GAMPOPA also talks about and gives detailed explanations of these 3 different types of laziness. The first one, the laziness of listlessness. First, the laziness of listlessness means being attached to the joy of torpor, such as lying down, sleeping, restfulness, and so forth. Doing nothing, just sleeping, lying on bed, playing game all day, not doing any tasks, not even washing the cup that you have used, not even place the pillow in proper direction, proper position. That kind of laziness, not wanting to do anything, just lying down, sleep, eat, and play game and so forth. So this is known as the laziness of listlessness, not having any kind of intention, not having any kind of a schedule, just idle mind. This should be avoided. This is not good. Well, if you are very, very tired of having a complete program or something else, then you can have this kind of laziness 1 or 2 days, excusable. But if you continue to do this restlessness, laziness, then it's not beneficial at all. It will not make your family members happy, I'm sure. So it will bring you trouble then. It will it will kind of pause everything of your tasks that is to do with Dharma practice, or that is to do with your daily needs. So why should we avoid them? Why should we need to avoid this laziness? Because there's no time for them in our life. According to Dharma, there's no time for them into our life. There's no time for laziness in our life because we don't have enough time. Every second, is taking our life. It's bringing ourselves into the, more and more near to the death, impermanence nature. So, if you're being lazy and do nothing there, and it's wasting our time. So therefore it says, because there is no time for them in our life, because Buddha said in the sutra that, O monks, the teachings in the impermanence, consciousness is diminishing, life is ending, the life force is going out, and the Buddha's teaching will surely perish. So why would one not practice with perseverance and diligence? So by knowing the nature of change, the impermanence, and try to avoid this laziness and be diligent. Engaging in the conduct of Bodhisattva says, for as long as death is actually approaching, then I shall accumulate merits. So you should, always utilize your time for something good, for yourself or for others. You should not waste your time at all. If you think that it is acceptable to accumulate virtues at the time of death, if you think, okay, now I don't want to do anything, but when the death comes, then I will be more diligent, If you think like that way, the GAMPOPA says here, no, because there is no time to accumulate virtues then, too late. So, if you want to do something, do it now, right away, whenever there is a time. Do it now. Don't waste your time. So, this is how you avoid laziness. Then, if you think you will not die until completions of the accumulations of virtue, you say, "Oh, I will not die before I finish my retreat, or before I graduate. I will not die before I earn money. I will not die." If you have this kind of thinking, then Buddha said this is also wrong. Because he says there is no definite competence. It's very uncertain. When the death will take place, it's very uncertain. It's very hard to say, hard to predict. So therefore, always ready, be ready. Always, be diligent in the practice of the Dharma. So how could one avoid listlessness then? You should avoid this as if a snake, crawled into your lap, or if snake comes into your lap, what will you do? You just, without thinking, spontaneously you will, run away, or wake up and run away and jump, Likewise, we need to avoid this listlessness, just like this. And the next example is, if your hair is caught with fire, what will you do? you do anything to try to get rid of that fire. You just not stay there idly lazy with laziness, will you? No, not so. I don't think so. We will stay there. We'll just wake up spontaneously and do something to clear away that fire from our hair. Likewise, we should avoid this listlessness, laziness, because there's no time for them in our life. So this is the first type of lazy, that is known as the listlessness, laziness. So we'll keep here for today, and we'll try to understand more on next sessions of the other two types of laziness, which are the need to be avoided in order to practice perseverance, in order to become more diligent in the practice of the Dhamma. Okay. Having said that, we'll stop here for today, and we'll continue in our next session. Let's dedicate the good merit for the well-being of others. Sonam de tamje sigba nye thomne nyebe tanam pamje ne kega na che palap tubai sebe chole ndo warai sho.